Good morning, everybody. This is Shaniqua, the founder of the Ready to Rock From Tragedy to Triumph movement. And we are here today with Carmelita Mcroy. So she has a story to tell you, but as you know, with all our speakers, we're not just here to spill our mess. We're also here to deliver a message. So she's going to give you tools of how to deal with your tragedy and to make sure that you too walk into triumph. Carmelita, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Glad to see you today, Shaniqua. And I named the topic that I was going to speak on today called Grieve the Right Way. And I titled that Grieve the Right Way because that makes people think, how do you grieve the right way? But I have to be truthful. There is no right way to grieve because no one can tell you how to grieve over a situation. But there is a right way to heal from grief. And there is a process. I'll just give you a brief description of my story. I had 6 children, and I lost 2 to death suddenly. I lost my son when he was 14 years old, and I lost my daughter when she was 23. And so dealing with that situation, of course, took me through a lot of grief. Twice in a 7-year period, I was going through the grieving period. With my son, when I was going through it, I really didn't have time to grieve because I still had 5 other kids at home and, just going and dealing with just day to day, doing what I was supposed to do, every life just going on, and so then when my daughter passed, it was just like, again, another tragedy hit, and in between all of that, my grandmother had passed, and it was just a lot of things. And so when she passed, it was just a whole lot that came down on me. And so then it seemed like all of a sudden this big explosion of grief from when he passed, and then now she's passed, and and I found myself going into a depression. And we as a Black culture do not believe in counseling. And we really need to do that more often. And you have your families who will not support you in that because they feel like, oh, that means you're crazy. And it doesn't mean you're crazy. Sometimes you need someone who doesn't know you to hear you out and to give you some tips and information on how to deal with what you're going through. And that's for anything, not just having a loss, but whatever it is, molestation, from abuse, domestic violence, whatever it is, you may need someone to talk to. And I had to get to that point of, one of the tools is if you feel yourself in grief and it's a toxic grief, which means you're in grief way too long, then you need to seek out counseling. And that's my main thing. I want to let people know you can seek counseling. You can seek a therapist. If there's a pastor at your church that you can talk to, but talk to someone. I know a couple of ladies, one lady I know who her son got killed and she committed suicide 2 years after that. I know another young lady who her son got killed and she's been on medications for the last 12 years and really has become addicted to that prescription medication because she wants it to numb her. And that's part of the problem of, what it is. We can't numb it. We're going to have to cry. You're going to have to speak out about it. That's the only way you can triumph over it. You have to come out with it. I'm glad I did do that because I'll just tell you a perfect example of I went to a family member and I told them, I said, I just feel really overwhelmed. I'm having anxiety. I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm really depressed and I don't feel good. And their answer to me was, girl, you can't be going crazy right now. Too many people depend on you. And I never said nothing to anyone else again. I just kept it to myself. And I kind of knew that because you kind of know your family, your surroundings and people, how they feel about counseling and therapy. So I kind of just kept it to myself. And I was like, wow, okay, this is why I didn't say anything to anyone, but we can't do that. Sometimes you need that. And so I went to a therapist and I got to talk out what I wanted to talk about. They gave me some medications and I'm the type of person, I'm an overcomer. I'm a survivor. So that wouldn't really do well with me because I have this personality that, devil, you're not going to defeat me. So I think I took those pills like 3 days and I was like, you know what, it's for the birds. I'm going to come talk to you, but I'm not doing this medication thing, and I'm not knocking anyone who has to be on medication because there are some people who do need it, but I said, okay, Lord, I went to the therapist. I'm doing what she told me to do. I'm recognizing that I'm overwhelmed right now, and I have to, because I do it. After my daughter passed, she had 2 children. So I took on my 2 grandchildren who I'm raising now. So it was just a lot to deal with. But I have to tell you that journaling helped me. And I wrote a book after my son passed, A Peaceful Stream. And I wrote about my process that I went through with the grief with him. And it came from my journaling. So I'm going to tell you that when you go through a tragedy, journaling will help you. Because if you can't talk to anyone, you can always write out your feelings. Look them over. Say it out loud to yourself. If you believe in God, tell him. Number 2, if you need medication, it's okay to be on medication. It doesn't mean you have to be on it for life. You may only need it for a month or 2 until you get yourself together, because that anxiety is crazy. I was at work, and if anything reminded me of one of my kids, I could feel like this outpouring of crying getting come on. And I'm sitting at a desk like, okay, I got to get to the bathroom because I'm feeling something coming on. And that's when I knew, when I can't sit at work and I'm getting to spill out and cry and, because someone said a word or someone had the name of one of my children or something, I know it's time, okay, I need to get some help. I'm going to have to deal with this because, I'm single, I'm not married, so I didn't have a spouse. Some people have their spouse, they can depend on each other, and so I did the journaling, and that's what the freebie that I'm giving you guys today is, that it's a worksheet. It's a grief worksheet that you go through. And I did an audio on SoundCloud, and you can look up my name of Carmelita Mcroy, and it says Grieve the Right Way. I want you to, when you go to my website, it's at my website, and I think Shanique will probably give you my website. When you go to my website, it says Grieve Worksheets. I want you to download those worksheets and then listen to the SoundCloud audio with it, and then write out. I'm going through the process of telling you how to write it out. First of all, what happened? That's where people are, first of all. They're in shock. They're in disbelief. Is it real? Did this really happen to me? And some people get stuck right there. And you have to move on past that. You're going to deal with anger. If your loved one died at the hands of someone else, then you're angry at that person who took their life. Some people are angry at the people for dying on them. Some people are angry with other people. They're blaming people. You shouldn't have taken them here. They wouldn't have got killed. You shouldn't have did this. If you had talked to them, it's anger. People go through a fear, especially if it's a spouse. They are fearing that I'm going to be alone. What do I do now? How do I pay these bills? This income is gone. There's a fear. I had a fear of, am I going to forget them? Some people forget. Am I going to forget them? How do I move on? I don't want to move on. I want to keep thinking about them day in and day out because I'm going to forget them. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck as well, and all you have to do is what I do when my son and my daughter's birthday comes up. I make their favorite foods, and me and the children, we just do a celebration of them, and then I let my granddaughters release balloons for their mom, so you have to do things to you remember them. Don't think that I have to continue to go through this hurt and pain and keep doing it over and over so I won't forget them, because a lot of people do think that way. Like, I'm in fear of forgetting this person. Location. A lot of people don't think about this, but when my son passed away, that next day, my church members came and helped me move out of my apartment. I knew I could not go back to that apartment and live there. Sometimes you may have to move from a city, or you may have to move from that state. You may have to move from that house, because if it continues to remind you of that person and is keeping you depressed and in a slump, you need to get away from there. Financially, you can't do it some kind of way. Sometimes that's a barrier. Steady be remembering things that happened in that house or in that city. And sometimes you just need to change to reconstruct your life after this tragedy. Also a part of, what is your happy place? Where do you feel happy? What makes you feel good? Know that, because that's the things that you need to do, whether it's traveling, going there, whatever that may be, you need to do that. Another part is pain and guilt. Some people can't get out of it because it's so painful. But a lot of that pain, when it lasts, it comes from guilt that you're feeling. What is it you're feeling guilty about? And that's what I asked you to write on the worksheet. Write it out. Some people, maybe you and your husband had a fight that morning, and then he, gets killed or something. And now you have this guilt, like, we left in this condition. Or something happened to one of your kids and you felt like you weren't the best mother or the best father, or, whatever that be. You have guilt for that, and that keeps you bound in that thing. And so you have to know that. And that's what I asked you to write out. A lot of time, another part of the worksheet is why can't I get over this? Why is it you can't get over it? Write it out. What is it that you're feeling that you cannot get over? Because at some point, you have to realize everyone has to deal with death. And you're going to have to know how to continue your routines and to go on with life after that. Enjoy life. God left you here for a reason. He didn't take you. So you still have to live your life after that. Another thing is your support. Who's your support system? Family, friends, your church, whoever it is that is supporting you, you have to allow them to do that. Sometimes they just need to listen to you while you talk. And that takes me to relationships. People don't realize if you grieve too long, you hinder your relationships, because other people have a life and they want to move on. They cannot hear you cry and keep going over this tragedy 5 to 6 years after it has happened, because other people go on with their life. Even though I'm not saying you forget about it. No, I think about my children all the time, but I realize I have to move on with life. When people have birthday parties, events, I go. I can't sit in the house and just cry and weep. And people do that and they affect their relationships. And a lot of times people just don't know what to do when you would not release your grief and try to heal from that process. So, don't mess up your relationships. What about if you have children and they see you're depressed all the time? You're going to feed that negative energy to your children. And you don't want to do that. So think about your relationships. If you're in a grief process right now and it's lasted way too long. I tell people all the time when I talk to people about dealing with grief, I tell them, if you read in the Bible, and when Moses died, God told the children of Israel, you have 30 days to grieve, and then you have to move on. And that's when they had to get prepared to go to the promised land. He only gave them 30 days. The Bible is our example. So he gave us that right there. You cannot grieve forever. I gave you work to do. The children of Israel had to work and head to the promised land after Moses died. So that's why he only gave them 30 days. If you have children after losing a loved one, you have to learn how to help them cope. You need to talk to them about it. You need to let them know that it's okay. You have to talk to them about death. Let them understand, even at an early age, because they're going to ask, where's my daddy? Where's my mama? Where's my sibling? You can't be, and at first you're going to be crying a lot. You're going to, do things. I remember one day I was driving down the street. I'll never forget. The song that helped me through when my son passed was Never Could Have Made It. Because that was out there by Marvin Sapp. And I used to play that song one day I was driving and I was just crying. And my youngest son, he looked at me, he said, Mama, you thinking about Chan? And I said, yes. And I was like, oh my God, he just gripped my heart because he knew, but he saw me. But at the same time, my children saw me continue to move on. They never missed school. They stayed on honor roll. All 5 of my children after that, even my daughter who passed away at 23, they graduated from high school. They all have gone to college. So I had to keep that going. That life had to go. I could not let them stop. I had a phobia of my kids being away from me after that. Of course, you're thinking like, I don't want to be away and something happens to one of my children or anything like that. So I made all of my children go to college away from me. There was only like 2 or 3 hours away, but I had to do that because I really wanted them to stay, but I knew I had to let them live life and continue to move on, because I know someone who it's like they went through a tragedy and their child has been there with them through this whole time. That child has to deal with what they're going through, their tragedy, but you have to release those kids. They have to live life. They have to know it's okay. My kids call me all the time. Mama, what you doing? They call like every day. What you doing? You okay? They want to make sure I'm okay. And sometimes I get teared up, because that's your kids. They want to make sure you're all right. And I tell them, yes, I'm all right. You go ahead. You live your life. You got to live your life. I'm okay. God got me. I'm going to be all right. When you grieve over someone, it doesn't just go away, but you have to learn how to process it and deal with it and heal in order to go on with life and continue a routine. You can't just sit, and just be idle. And so God has given me, he's always told me that I was an evangelist, that I was a person who's supposed to speak into women's lives and young women. And I think that's why I went through a lot of the things I've gone through. And that's the reason why it gets my heart when I see someone. Now it's so much death and so many young people dying. And I know what those mothers are going through. I know it. My kids may not have been murdered, but I still lost them. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you have to be able to say, hey, I feel you. And you're going to get through this, but you have to want to, and you have to do it for them. I set up a foundation for my son and my daughter. If that's what you have to do to keep that memory alive, set up a foundation for them. You know, do so. Like I said, celebrate their birthdays when it comes along. You know, people, and the anniversary of sometime their loved one's death, they go to the cemetery. Whatever it is, it's something that you have to do in order to continue to live your life, but you can still deal with that grief. You know, you have your days, that's fine, but you should not be grieving for 3 years straight to where you can't work, you can't communicate with people. That is not healthy. You need help at that time. Another part of the worksheets that I'm handing out is my health. Are you getting sleep? Are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? You still have to take care of yourself. If you're not, you're going to end up with high blood pressure, heart disease. You can end up with cancer. People don't realize stress causes cancer. All these diseases, we have things that are released in our body. And so when we have a lot of negative energy, those secretions and cells are released and cause cancer. They cause heart problems because of how we're feeling. And the more you smile and the happier you are, you're going to be healthy. I'm telling you, you're going to be healthier. That's why Shanika said, calm down. You're going to be okay. Calm it down. Don't put all that stress in your life. Calm down. You know, you don't want to be that way. So, but again, I have the worksheets. They're available at my website. Shanika will give you all that. And when you pull off the worksheets, you can go to SoundCloud and listen to the audio that goes with those worksheets. So,
wow, like that was a lot. You got me over here taking notes.
I was trying to get in the time period. I hope I wasn't talking too fast because people tell me you talk so fast.
No, we're just gonna slow down some of it and unpack some of it. Now, you did give us like a lot of tools that we can use to get through our grief. Like, and I love the fact that you made a point that the grief doesn't go away. We just learn how to process, deal, and heal. I love that 3-step that you gave us right there. Is the process, deal, and heal. So what exactly was your transition with, I know you spoke on how you had this big cry moment about to come at work. What exactly was the transition that said, I'm not going to do this anymore? Like, I'm ready to start healing or processing.
Well, I said to myself, like I said before that, when I started feeling it coming on, I mentioned it to a family member. Mm-hmm. And the answer they gave me, I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything else to anybody. Let me just go on. But it kept coming in my mind. Like the Lord was telling me, you're going to have to talk to someone. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, I'm just going to go over here to this clinic. And I know they do free services. And I said, okay, it kept on, like at work, it was like 3 days in a row. I kept having this anxiety. And I was feeling like I was going to burst out crying. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to have to do something right now. And I called that clinic and I got an appointment and I got in. And even though people need to know this too, if you're a Christian, it's okay to seek counseling. God didn't say you have to go pray all day. Yes, you have to pray, but sometimes you need someone there physically to help you. And it may not always be your church members. You know, mm-hmm. But you pray and you ask God to lead you to the person that you need to talk to, or the therapist, or you don't want anyone. You know, some people may be giving you some false, put negative energy towards you. So you pray about where you need to go. And so it was a good thing that I found a therapist who was a Christian, mm-hmm. So that was a blessing.
That's really interesting. Like I said, this is the third interview that I've done with people one-on-one for this summit, and all 3 have brought up get counseling, and all 3 of them said, as a Christian, you need to go get counseling. In fact, one of them is completing her doctorate for Christian counseling because there was no outlet for her to seek somebody. And then all three also touched on the stigma with mental health in the Black community.
Yes.
I'm starting to pick up that this must be what this transition, this shift thing that is going on, is that Christians and Black people and the combination of both, we've got to go get help because we're trying to do it all by ourselves. And that's not working.
What, Shaniqua, do you
speak
see
to that?
All the murders and things we have going on with these young people, they're angry. Some of these kids need to be in counseling.
Yeah.
You know, last week we had a young lady, 15, that shot up that middle school.
Yeah.
You know, these kids, they're dealing with some things, but someone's not admitting that, let me take them to a counselor. When they're underage, you can take them to a counselor or a therapist. And you know if your child is having some issues and they're snapping off, or you just kind of start seeing something a little strange, you know what? They need to talk to someone. It's not always the parent. They're not going to open up to you. You know, my daughter, I realized that she had, you know, like I said, we dealt with their death. But one of my daughters, I saw where she was really kind of going through, and she went away to college, but she almost had a nervous breakdown. I'm driving to her college at 1 a.m. in the morning, you know, and I told her, you're going to have to get some counseling therapy. I can't help. I'm dealing with my own, you know, grief. I can talk to you, but you need some help. So she had started going to therapy. You know, it's okay to tell your kids, go to therapy. Mama and daddy may not have all the answers.
And we usually don't. Because we're human too.
We love you. We love you. We gonna pray for you. But sometimes we just don't have all the answers, and maybe somebody else can help you. And Black America, we gonna have to realize that. We can't just tell her, girl, go on, you gonna be okay. Go on, okay, let me pray for you. No, that sometimes we praying at the altar at church, but when you walk out that door, the devil is waiting on you.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, so yeah, I'm really thinking that's a larger part of this message of what this summit is going to do, is tell people that it is okay, especially as a Christian, to go seek counseling. Because seriously, who's not to say that was their calling given to them by God?
Yes.
You know, their ability to help. I mean, that's what you do. You help. You help through the grief. So it's the same thing. Absolutely.
You go to the doctor if you got a pain. You know,
I hope so. That's another thing, another time.
So if you got pain up here, you need a doctor for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you mentioned two of the people that you do know, one who committed suicide after the grief and one who developed an addiction after the grief. How did you avoid that?
Well, I can't say the suicidal thoughts don't come to you when you're really grieving and going through a depression. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'm such a strong-willed person. And I was like, you know what? That ain't nothing but the enemy trying to talk to me. And you are defeated. You was defeated at the cross. So I'm not going to let you overtake me, you know. And that's when I would put on me some praise music, or I put on some preaching. I was like, okay, I know you got a word on YouTube. Somebody going to come up, and a preacher to come up, whoever it is, Cindy Trim, TD Jakes, whoever. Somebody would come up, and I would click on one of them, and it would just be the right message. You know, even if you feel yourself like, I'm just going to lay here in bed. No, you can't just lay there in bed. Get up and take a walk around your neighborhood. You know, I had to do that. Get out and go walking, you know, and you got to find some way, but you got to push yourself. You have to want it for yourself and know and admit, I need healing. I have to do something about this, you know, but that was my thing. I listen to worship music. Whenever I feel down, that's for anything. I listen to worship music. I'm going to put on some preaching, or I'm going to go for a walk and clear my head. And I'm going to tell you another thing that helps. Watch comedy.
Yes, laughter. Yes. And it's so funny because everybody is saying the same exact thing. Journaling. You know, we've got to tell our story, right? We have to write it out, even if it is just for us to see. We've got to be able to write that out. And then the walking, going for a walk by yourself or walk with Jesus, or however you want to put it. But that physical activity, that physical movement, getting those, what is it, the dopamine? One of those things. Don't quote me. That is not my wheelhouse.
With my granddaughters, my daughters, her youngest one wasn't even 1 when she passed.
Oh,
wow. So what I used to do is I used to go to the park, and there was a trail around this certain park we have here. I let them go play on the playground, and I would just walk. I could see them, so I just kept walking. I would talk to myself. I wouldn't answer back. I wouldn't answer back. But I would talk and just be talking to myself and releasing it. And I feel so much better. We get in the car and we laugh all the way home, So some people need that. Get out. Get some fresh air.
I love that.
Because what I see is a lot of women, and you know what, I'm going to tell you, Shaniqua, I found out while I was studying this when I wrote my book, is that most of the time toxic grief comes from women and elderly people. Because
I wanted you to talk on toxic grief some more. Yes, go ahead. I definitely wanted you to talk on that more.
Yeah, toxic grief is when you get to the point where you're in the bed every day. Because there are some people who never get out the bed. Mm-hmm. They do not move on. They don't go back to work. They don't communicate with anyone. I know a lady who went through a certain grief period. Her daughter was like 8 years old, starting to cook dinner for the family because she wouldn't get out of bed. So that's toxic at that point where you're not moving or going anywhere. That's when you're on borderline of probably suicide, when you're definitely not getting out of bed and you really need to talk to someone, And so when you're in toxic grief, that means you've been going on to it. You've probably been in it for years. This is went past the year after, the anniversary of the death. You're continuing in it year after year after year after year. And there are a lot of people like that. I believe a lot of people end up in a situation that we see homeless people on the street. Some of them have dealt with a grief or a loss that they could not handle and never could get life back together again, And the thing is, they probably did not seek therapy because, of course, they didn't want people talking about them, but they end up, losing their home because they couldn't go back to work. It's so many reasons why people are homeless. It's not just because they don't want to work. So many people have been through tragedies that they couldn't get themselves out of and they didn't seek help.
That was really interesting right there because I wanted you to, when you submitted to be a speaker, you talked about how you have yourself experienced homelessness, no job, no car. How did you get here? How did you get there? And how did you get here?
Well, when I got there, I did go through that period because of the fact that I had to leave my job. And I wanted to take a long-term leave, but they wouldn't let me take a long-term leave. So I had to leave there because I felt myself snapping on people, at work. And I realized, okay, I'm not dealing with this good. I didn't go to therapy right away from there. But it ended up, I had 3 kids still at home when my daughter passed. 1 was on her way to college, 2 was in high school, and now I have 2 babies I'm paying daycare for. And the finances just became overwhelming. I was cool with what I had, but when I added 2 more people to it, with the income I was at, it became very overwhelming. And I had just bought a new car. I was getting ready to buy a home. I was just in a situation where, hey, things was looking real good, and then life just came with poof, So I ended up homeless. And I ended up without a car and a job all at one time, and, I cried about it. I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this, Lord. I can't. But then there's always something in me that's saying, are you going to trust me? Are you going to trust me? And then I was like, I look at my kids and I look at my grandbabies and I'm like, you know what? I can't give up. I got to keep going on. This may be a testimony for them just to see how their mama and their grandma made it, how she persevered. And I kept going through that. We ended up staying at a shelter, and I just kept pursuing it. And you know what? People feel your spirit. Those people at that shelter helped me so much. They were like, oh, I know you're going to do right. I know, they just felt it. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting me a place, got back to work, and ended up going back to school. All at the same time. And things just worked out. And you know what? God has placed this in me way before all of this happened. Me doing the life coaching and being an author. Because I'd already did publish 2 books, before I even did the one on my son. And so it's just like, okay, Lord, you want to take me through a test for these testimonies I'm going to be telling here. I've done enough testing. Okay, let's get So, it's always a test. It's always, but you know what? The enemy is going to come against you if you're trying to serve him and you're continuing to try to persevere. You're going to continue to get these arrows at you. And I'm just like Mayweather and them, you know, I got to duck and dodge and move, you know, because it's like, I'm not going to quit. I can't. I put it in my mind that I'm going to get everything that the enemy stole from me. I'm going to persevere and I'm going to triumph over everything that I've been through. Some things earlier in my life as a young woman, I might have brought on myself, but the things that I didn't, I'm going to overconquer them.
See, okay. Now, you just brought up another point. I love talking to you. You just said that line, okay, Lord, I've done enough testing. I know so many people who are in that place, and I know I've been in that place too. Like, how do you keep showing up for the test? How do you not stop? Where do you get the spirit?
Well, like I said, you have to pray daily, all day. It's not just, oh, Lord, thank you for waking me up, and then at night, now lay me down to sleep, I pray. No, if you're a true prayer warrior, you're praying all day when something goes on. You know, you have to continually pray. When I feel my spirit getting down, I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, give me peace right now. I need peace in this storm because I feel something heavy coming on me. You know, sometimes just sit, you know, maybe just put some soft piano music or something on and meditate. You have to release some kind of way, you know. And then what I started doing too, because of everything I see going on in the world, people are so angry and the things that are going on. I said, I have to be the opposite of that. Every day, I have a list of affirmations next to my vision board in my room. And I speak those affirmations every day before I leave. And so my granddaughter saw this vision board in my affirmations. So she's like, oh, what is that that you have on there? So I told her about it. So she asked me, well, can I do a vision board? And she's 8. I said, sure, you can do a vision board. And I also, after I thought about it, I got a pink poster board and I wrote 10 affirmations for them. And I said, you all say this every day before you leave here. They get up, they say their prayers. I put on there, I let them know. I told them that on there it says, I am, Jesus loves me. I put on there, they said, I am a princess becoming a queen. I told them on there, I will graduate from high school and college, speaking those things into their life. My children have really given me the fire to keep going on because I want to see them succeed. And I know because I'm so close to my children and my grandchildren, if I fall, they're going to fall right behind me like a domino effect. And I can't have that happen.
Right. Here, I got my board right here. I got 2 of them.
Look at it every day.
Yes. Yeah, I found myself getting a little overwhelmed. And then finally I looked at it. I was like, you know, you're supposed to be looking at this every day, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Say them affirmations every morning. Day. Positive affirmations every morning before you leave the house.
That's awesome. So just one more time, let's go over those tools for people. What can they, like you brought up one that people fear that they're going to forget their loved one. And that's one of the reasons they get stuck. I love how you talked about how people got stuck at these certain stages of grief. Can you talk more on what they can do to make sure, one, that they don't forget, but they don't lose themselves? And then also anything else that they can do as far as a tool to move forward in their grief?
Well, I can say that, like I said, with that fear, celebrate their birthday. It's okay. You know, some people think if I don't say anything or keep it to myself, it's going to help. No, that means it's just growing inside of you till you finally explode.
Right.
So, you know, I don't really have pictures up of my son. He died so young, you know. So I just had a scrapbook. I made a scrapbook for him. All his pictures up to 7th grade. And I had a little scrapbook and some of his stuff. So I keep those scrapbooks down. My daughter, you know, like I said, I have her picture up, and that's for her girls because I want them to always see their mom. And it's her graduation from college, her picture that she had when she graduated from college. So I keep that picture up. And they'll go by and look at it sometimes, or they'll say something and ask questions. Be okay to do that when people ask you questions, you know, or sometimes, you know, at first when some people might didn't know that my daughter had passed, and they'd be like, oh, how's Candace doing or whatever. And you feel this grip and you like, Oh, she's
Yes.
no longer here anymore, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, and so you have to learn how to kind of hold that and be like, but it's okay. I'm okay. I'm at peace. Use your music, worship music, praying. You know what I do on some days, and this is not just for grief. Some days when I can't pray, I put on a recording of prayer and let somebody else pray for me, whether it's Cindy Trim, Joel Osteen, or Tita. They have prayers on YouTube that they're doing a prayer, or maybe somebody recorded them praying during the service, and that prayer might just say everything I needed to say. I'll just put that prayer on and get on my knees and just listen to it. Sometimes they always tell you, if you don't know what to say, just be quiet and tell the Holy Spirit to speak for you. So you just let them do that. Also, get out. You have to get out. And I don't mean just going to church and going to work. You need to get out with friends. You need to go to some barbecues or, and go out to some birthday parties, and don't just be like, no, I don't feel like, because I got to that point where I was like, nope, I'm not going anywhere. And I just want to sit in the house. You have to get out. And then when you feel that loneliness or that depression or anything coming on you, get out. Like I said, for a walk.
Yeah.
Or go to the gym, work out some kind of way. You can't sit in the house. I'm gonna tell you, that house, them four walls in that house will keep you in depression. You need to get out.
That's so interesting too, because you hit on every single part of the rock where the title comes from. Reclaiming your life, owning the story, owning that it happened, and owning that you're not okay and you need help, and then connecting to something outside of yourself, like going outside, taking that walk, going to church, finding some joy, some friends, and then knocking down that negativity. When it starts to well up, you got to fight back, and that's the only way that you can rock out your life is by finding your fight, and that's really cool. Now, one more question: how can people support someone going through such immense grief? What do you think would be some good ways for people to support them?
Number one, don't try to give advice if you haven't been there. That's a big problem. Don't try to give someone advice if you haven't been there. I remember one person told me when my son first passed, and this woman came up, and I don't think she meant anything, but I think she thought she was saying something positive. She said, well, at least you have your other kids. And I'm looking at her like,
I don't know. But
that's not him.
Right.
She probably thought she was saying something good, like, look, you have your other kids. That wasn't the point, So if you haven't been through it because you don't know what they're going through, all you need to do is say, I'm here for you. If you need me, call me. I will come. If you just want to talk, we can just talk. You have to be a good listener for that person. Be a good listener. Don't try to tell them what to do next, especially if you haven't been through it. Just listen. Say, I'm here for you. Call them, be like, hey, you want to come over for dinner today? Hey, let's get out and do something. That's what I did with my friend. Like, come on, you're going to get out this house. I don't want to hear any excuses. Get dressed. I'll be there in an hour. Sometimes you just have to, especially if they've been in the home for a long time and they're really going through depression, you have to force them, like, I'm on my way. You better be dressed when I get there. I don't have to, I'm not going to talk about what she's going through. I'm not going to talk about the death. I'm just telling her we're going out, right. Just to get them out the house. So you have to do those tools. But number one, do not try to tell them how to fix the problem if you haven't been through it. Because sometimes people say things that they really don't need to say, or I understand how you feel. You go, no, you don't understand how I feel if you haven't been there. Don't say that. So many people do that. They think it's a good thing to say. I understand. I don't care if you're a domestic violence person who's been through rape. I understand how you feel. No, you don't. If you haven't been there,
it's not the same thing.
You don't know what they feel. So don't say that. Just say, I'm here for you. If you want to talk, call me. If you want me to come over, I'm coming. But just be that listening ear for them.
Now, I know I said one more question, but you said something really interesting. And it's something that I know that I particularly struggle with. And it is allowing people to help and allowing people to support you. So how do you do that? How do you allow that?
You know what? I heard a preacher say one time that I used to be a type of person like, no, that's okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. You know what he said? He said that we are blocking someone else's blessing by telling them no. Because God gave certain people money so that they can help other people. He gave some people skills and talents to help other people. If you tell them no, you're blocking their blessing that they're supposed to get from coming to you to help you. God placed them there to help you, and they're going to get a blessing from it, and you're going to get a blessing from being obedient. Don't tell them no. Now, when people be like, I want to send the girls some gifts and this and that, I'll be like, okay, sure, thank you. Any other time I'll be like, they have enough stuff. You in your mind, I think, especially as women, we feel like we have to do it all, and if we don't, somebody's going to be talking about us because they're going to talk. But you know what? I got to the point. You know what? Hey, keep talking. You know what I'm saying? So when someone wants to help you, if they be like, oh, I see that you're, trying to do this or that. I know a lady who a person next door to her saw she was struggling with her, kids. She was a single parent and everything. And it was weird because, I wouldn't have believed it if she didn't tell the testimony, But she said that the man said, how much do you own your house? Her next door neighbor paid off her house. So I was like, Jesus, I ain't never stopping nobody. When they come to me, like, do you need what is it? What did he tell you to do for me?
Yes. Jesus.
I'll be like, what did he tell you to do for me?
I need somebody to hit me up with those student loans.
Yeah.
Do you need me to pay those off? Yes. No hesitation. Oh man, this has been really, really great. I enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, I enjoyed talking to you.
You said someone shut you down right away when you considered going to counseling, that you said you needed to talk to somebody. And this has been a recurring theme in every conversation I've had, is that someone shut them down. That's even happened to me when I told someone within like 10 minutes that I got raped. I said, hey, I got raped. And they're like, he didn't do that. I was like, okay. And that was it. It was a shutdown. How do you move past that shutdown? Because we know that the immediate thing to do is protect ourselves. Why should we keep going forward, and how do we do that?
Well, one thing about it, when someone shuts you down, you know what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. You have to say to yourself, they don't understand. Let me move on. You can't even sit and think about what they just said to you. You have to move on. You have to go seek the help that you need from someone else. That's why I said we have to learn to go to professionals. And, like I said, in the Black community, they don't want you going to professionals. I'm sorry, your girlfriend can't help you with this, mm-hmm. And, and a lot of times if they have been through it, they be like, I'm fine. You know what? Sometimes they really not fine. They think they're okay with it, but they really not. You can tell by them, they're bitter, they're angry, different things that come up when people don't deal with situations that they need to deal with. So when those people come to you and something is going on with you and they give you a negative feedback, you be like, oh, okay. Hey, shut it down for them. Don't go back to them anymore. You need to move to the next person, either someone in your church. Like I said, if you don't go to church, then you find a counselor, find a therapist, find someone in a professional that deals with those things. There are professionals that deal with every single tragedy that you can think of, and you have to seek them out. Don't just get stuck with, and don't get stuck with just staying in your culture. We have a habit of doing that. Don't stick with just your culture. They may not be the ones that can help you overcome something.
That's right. So it's all about being asked to be led to the right person.
That's right.
So that's good. Great stuff. I enjoyed the talk. I know I said that already, but you are a wealth of information. How can people connect with you? What is it that you do for them? And then again, you could tell them again about the freebie, but yes, it will be linked on the website. Okay.
You can kind of contact with me at www.carmelitamcroy.net. That is my website. I have it set up there. My books are for sale on there. I also do coaching sessions. I help women, especially single moms. Right now, I'm focusing on my single moms because I see a lot of things that are going on right now in the world with them. Just trying to help them get focused on how to take care of their children, get focused on themselves. I'm not saying no one needs a partner or a husband, but we got to make sure we get that right one that we're going to move forward with. Marriage is not perfect. Marriage is ministry. Marriage is work. But I believe that children deserve to have their mother and father in the home and have them together, at least some kind of connection. So I help them with that because we have way too many broken homes in our Black communities. Black mothers are number one in single parent households of running. We are number one. And not saying that everybody needs to jump up and get married, but what I'm saying is we got to do better with choosing our partners and knowing our worth and knowing what we want out of it. And that's what I help young ladies do. That's why I work with teens as well, especially teen mothers. Okay, let's go ahead, because I didn't get my degree until I was 38 years old. So, but I want the people to know, go ahead, let's do this. Let's get it in order now. Get your degree, get yourself together, get your life together. Focus on you and your child or children if that's what you have. I also, on my website there, you'll see the things that I do. You know, like I said, I have the freebie on there. Go to the grief worksheets. I also do SoundCloud. I release information from there. I'm also on YouTube. If you look up my name on YouTube, I'm on YouTube. I have my videos on there. But I'm all about help. I've been through so much, Shaniqua. You know, we all have been through. But I want to help those who are struggling with it right now. I'm going to tell you how I made it through, you know, because I've been through a whole lot of things. And I just want to help people. And I've always been that way. When I know sometimes, and I'm so happy that I've always had that spirit because my kids have that spirit. My daughter would call me and say, Mama, my friend baby's sick and she don't have any medicine. Can you take her some medicine? What made you think I want to get up in my car and go? But they got it from me because I've always been there to help. But they volunteer me for other people. But I realized that's what God put in me. I'm an encourager. You know, I might have been through a lot, but I don't show it. You know, I can't do that because if I'm always down and out, who is the God that I'm serving that I'm telling you about? You know, so I have to say, I got to make it through this. I'm going to keep fighting to the end because I know what the end is going to be, you know, and I know that prosperity is where he, you know, put me at. But the enemy wants to fight you on the things that you're gifted in. You know, yes. He wants to fight you in those things. And so just be an overcomer, you know, and for women, if you need some help, I'm a coach and I help you plan for the next steps to do better. I don't tell you what to do. I'm not going to try to write it out for you. We're going to work together to get the plan done.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So thank you.